Welcome to this Naval War Arctic Circle gameplay video. Now what I will be doing in these next few videos is to go through the tutorial missions. Now this game is more of a fleet management game rather than a single platform game like Subcommand or Dangerous Waters. Rather than me waffling on, let's just go through the various options, etc. First of all, as you can see, you get very nice big buttons, audio, graphics, but if you click on one, then you can see the menus there for both. Now, when I started the game, it did set everything to medium on the graphics, but I've changed everything to ultra, and it has made no impact on my system at all. It very easily handles it. So, okay, so let's just go. You've got a multiplayer option, creating game or join game, single player. You can see I've got the continue campaign option because I did start a NATO campaign. You've got new campaign where you could either start the NATO or Russia. Now the game is set in 2030, and it's basically the scenario of the last place of resources is the Arctic region, and so you've got NATO forces fighting against Russian forces for these resources, and the campaign is basically an escalation. It's from what I have seen so far, a linear sequence of scenarios that's not dynamic, so it's just a sequential progression rather than anything, as I said, dynamic. Okay, now go to have a look in single mission. Now as you can see, it looks like you've got quite a few missions given to you. But if you notice all these missions that are prefixed with C, these are all campaign missions. This means that unlike most games, where if you have a campaign and you unlock the missions for replay by actually completing them in the campaign, this game actually has all of them unlocked right from the beginning. So swings and roundabouts really. If you just want to dip into various different missions, it's quite nice, but there's no real feeling of progression. There are 5 missions which do not have the prefix, and I assume that they are not part of the campaign, so it would look a little bit sparse, in fact, if there was only 5 missions listed up there. And part of that may well be the fact that there is no scenario editor, which seems to be a major disappointment, myself included. Now if we go, because what we'll be doing is going through the tutorial. Now the first 3 tutorial missions are in actual fact the first 3 missions in the NATO campaign, although they're not listed under the single missions that we just saw. So if you didn't want to do the tutorials and you started the NATO campaign, you'll still end up doing the first 3 missions anyway, but doing the campaign you'll actually get the achievements for them, whereas you don't just doing the tutorial. Anyway, okay, so this video is going to be basically tutorial 1 and tutorial 2 because they're both quite short. So as you can see, this is the map of the region that we're going to play in. So description: learn to launch aircraft, issue simple movement orders, and use active sensors. Bring a helicopter next to the stricken oil tanker. Okay, so let's just hit the start game. Again, you've just got the same description again as we had before. Okay, so it says open the flight deck on your frigate and launch the helicopter. Select the helicopter, cue it, and then right click on the map where you want it to navigate. Now, just before we do start this, although it actually says we've already started, so let's go. You can see from the interface and the way it's laid out that it looks very much like Jane's fleet command rather than, say, Harpoon. Those two are very much sim style battle group war games, whereas this is more leaning towards an RTS style. It does a lot of things under the hood, so to speak, for you, which does limit what you can and can't do. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. But anyway, let's just get on. So here we have the frigate, and as you can see there's this huge marker here, which is obviously our destination. So up here it tells us launch the helicopter from your frigate. So let's just do that. So we've got it nicely marked up here, flight deck. So we press that button, it brings up the flight deck information, and as you can see we've just got one helicopter marked up, and under here it's set up armed for ASW, which is anti-submarine warfare. If you wanted to change it to either of these two, there is a large time penalty because it takes time to reconfigure an aircraft. Later on future missions I shall point out a problem with this, with the way they've set this up. But anyway, we've got this huge button here to add it to the launch queue. Now this doesn't automatically launch the helicopter. What you have to do, as you can see, my cursor now has a little aircraft below it. You basically just right click to where you want it to go. So now select the helicopter, open the sensors panel and click activate on helicopter's radar. So let's just push up. So this screen flips between the tactical display and the 3D display. So just to show you the helicopter lifting off, click OK. So you can see the graphics aren't spectacular. Bring your helicopter to the stricken oil tanker by selecting the helicopter and right clicking on the map near the tanker. You will need to close the sensors panel to issue movement orders. You can zoom on the map using the mouse wheel. Now we've not even had time to actually turn on the radar in the sensors panel yet, and so it's not that great, but let's just click on the helicopter. So sensors panel, as you can see we've got 3 different types of sensors which I won't go over just now, and it's highlighting to activate the Falaise NRR. So we've now switched that on. As you can see it's crossed out our last objective. It's telling us we want to come next to the tanker, so that's what we'll do. To get that going. Now the graphics are fine, they're a little bit better than Jane's Fleet Command, but there's no sort of colour to them. Now let's just read this. Now may be the right time to increase time compression. Click on the coloured top bar until time compression is 10:1 or 21. Well, we'll do that in just a second. You can see it's highlighted up there, the compression. As I was saying, the graphics are okay, but there's no real markings on any of the craft. And obviously the ships, naval ships tend to be grey, but maybe a mod might be able to change this sort of thing. You've got various pieces of information up here, light percentage, cloud cover, sea state, wind speed and temperature. Down here we've got different things like mission settings. So I've got here selected fire on all cleared targets, and you've got different defaults. Let's keep that. Treat detections as hostile, so you can treat everything you detect as a bad guy. Automatic evasion, I've got clicked. Automatic active sensor response. Should units automatically activate sensors in response to being detected by active sensors? Question mark. Oh, still. Anyway, let's move on. Mission log. Battle reports objectives. It shows you all the objectives. So we've done the launch and the sensor panel. Any messages? Yes, it's detected. This is not like, as I was saying, a single platform naval game like Subcommand or Dangerous Waters. You are actually giving more or less tactical management commands to these units. That they are assets rather than being in direct control of them. Here you can see bases, units and groups that have been detected. And here displays all our units. It's the Bergen Airport, so this is a nice way of being able to just go directly to an asset, especially when you've got a large number. Okay, so up here we can actually increase the time ratio, so let's bring it up to 110. Down here you've got various pieces of information like unit health, 100%. So it's basically a health bar, which moves into the RTS arena rather than sim. Bingo fuel level. Now this is a bit of a funny one. Whereas you would expect, oh, I've used 50% fuel to go directly somewhere, so 50% fuel to come back. In actual fact, when it reaches 100%, that means I've only just got enough fuel to return to my base. So it's a bit of a funny thing. Oh, and we've finished. And this is a rather gaudy looking end splash screen. I don't know what came across the mind of the person that actually did this, but hi-ho, we've got to live with it. Very basic information, gives us the mission name, the length of time in real time, and the game time. So because we've obviously accelerated towards the end, that's the reason we've got the difference, and various information about ships lost, etc, etc. Retry mission or exit menu. We've got no buttons to actually save or replay the mission that we've just played, and that's another good point, saying the word save, because during the mission there is no save option. So in the longer ones you can't sort of play for 20 minutes or half an hour and say, oh, I'm going to save the game at this point, come back to it later. You've got to basically abandon it or continue on to the end. This is something the devs are thinking about addressing, because it is one of the more popular requests. As I said, there's no replay option, so you can't go back and see overall how you played out the mission, and even actually just seeing what the end position was to see what units were out there. There's no chance of seeing that. It just ends. Anyway, so let's exit the menu. And as I said, in this video we're going to do the first two tutorial missions because they're quite short. Moving on to anti-sub. In this exercise you will use land and sea-based aircraft to search for and engage enemy submarines. Locate and sink at least one enemy submarine. So let's start the game. Quite quickly goes into just a repeat of what we've already gone through. Open the flight deck on one of your frigates and launch a helicopter. Select the helicopter, queue it, and then right click on the map where you want it to navigate. Okay, and again we've got this enormous target to say where things are going to happen. So anyway, let's first of all get onto the frigate. Red buttoned again. So as you can see, it's set up for anti-submarine warfare, so let's move it up and let's right click in there. Okay, with the helicopter selected, go to the special orders panel. You will find the aircraft is equipped with sonar buoys. With this selected, press and hold the right mouse button, drawing out a rectangle where you want to conduct the submarine search, in this case in a narrow area around the marker on the map. You can also drop individual sonar buoys at a specific position by right clicking that map position. Okay, so we've got the, let's close this down. Because we've still got the frigate selected, so we just need to click on the helicopter, and as you can see, we've got a red box on special orders, and that's come up with the sonar buoys, DCAS and SSQ 62s, and you can see, as it will do with various different weapons, it comes up with a little box of additional information, which is quite nice. Anyway, so right click and create a little box, and it tells you what it's going to do. Okay, let's just go pull up a bit. As you can see, we've got also an airport this time. As you can see, the graphic is fairly crude, and I mean, it's fairly similar to the way that if you haven't already done so, consider encrypt, blah blah blah. I'll do that in a minute. It's, in terms of layout, in like a single tile graphic, it's like Fleet Command. I should try and stop doing comparisons to Fleet Command, because they're two different games, really. Anyway, let's have a look on the flight deck for the aircraft. As you can see, we've got different ones here. Here we've got the Boeing P-8A Poseidon, which is set up for anti-submarine warfare. We've got two of those, and then we've got two F-35As, which is set up for air superiority. Now, as I was saying, it can take a long time if you want to change one of these aircraft to a different role, and this is also a problem I've found, in that if you've got airports with a large number of aircraft and you decide, well, actually, considering the mission that I've got to do, I want to have a couple that are strike, a couple that are naval strike, etc. You can't do that pre-mission. You have got to do it when the mission has started. So if I say, right, I'm going to change this F-35A to naval strike, so if I right click on it, you can see the time now says it's going to take 59 game, well, basically an hour of game time for it to be changed to this new naval strike role. It would now, I'm happy about that it's going to take so long to change it, but I would prefer the option right at the beginning of the mission to be able to allocate any aircraft assets to the roles that I want them to have at the start of the mission. It's just me, anyway. Anyway, let's. I'm going to launch this Boeing P-8A. I'm going to bring it out over here. Okay, so let's increase the game speed time. Now under these, let's actually slow it down. I'm going to talk about these different commands. Under here we've got movement planner, battle planner, flight deck we've used, sensors we've used, special orders we've used, formations. So let's just go to movement, which is a basic one. Now we're clicked on the helicopter. This big button here, return to base, it will immediately cancel all the orders for that asset and order it to return back to base. Place waypoints, we can set up waypoints. I've not used that yet. Return to formation, so if we've got several aircraft in a formation. So, I mean, for myself, when I'm flying a cap, I usually use 2 aircraft, and I might send off one to intercept something, and then I could order it to return back to the formation. Down here we've got the speed command, so we can actually directly affect the speed of the asset that we've highlighted. And at the moment it's going at cruise speed. There is military speed, which is full speed. You've got half speed, slow and stop. So very much a naval feel to these commands. Over here we've got the actual height that we want the air asset to fly at, and unfortunately you can't do a halfway position between 2 points. You've got to go for 1, 2 or 3, 4, 5 or 6 if they can reach that height. And we can see that with this aircraft. I'm going to put it up to 4, and as you can see it's starting to go up, and unfortunately, as you can see on the graphic, it just looks like it's going forwards at a nice flat level. Also decrease the speed of it here. Now down here you've also got two buttons, which is show range for aircraft. So it's a bit confusing because I don't know what that blue line is meant to represent. Maybe if it flies out too far and it then turns red because it's then got to turn back or not. I don't know, confuses me. Here we can show waypoints for all units, which is rather nice. As you can see, all the units are shown, ships as well as the air assets. But the trouble is, as soon as you close this, you can only see your assets, so there's no button to actually have that on all the time. Now here, Battle Planner, this is something to really consider getting into. Over here we've got the engagement strength. It's always set to normal, and you will see that a large number of ordnance is fired off if it's set to normal. Obviously overkill is a high amount of ordnance, so it's probably best idea just to set that to a low level. You've got the weapons order cleared targets, which means targets have identified, self-defense only or hold fire. And here you've got close and engage, identify target before engaging. If target isn't identified yet, try to identify it before engaging. Now on a later mission than this, I had a yellow unidentified target and I had this switched on, and I tried right clicking and it had a little magnifying glass with the little eye in the middle, and it just kept saying to me, it's not a enemy target, I'm not going to attack. But I don't want it to attack, I wanted it to identify it. So that was a little bit of a, I don't know whether it's a bug or me misusing it. Anyway, hang on. To engage the enemy submarine, you first have to mark it as hostile foe. Mark as red on the map. If the sub is not identified, you can do that manually in the information panel. When you have the detection contact selected, then choose your helicopter again, right click on the submarine target to engage. You may have to repeat this process as submarines may evade some of your torpedoes. There are additional aircraft P-8 Poseidons, one of which we've already got in the air, on your airbase to the north. So this is the enemy contact. Oops. And it's identified it as a ULA vessel, so let's helicopter and right click on it, as you can see, the graphic is not very nice for launching weapons. Same goes for actually aircraft taking off from aircraft carriers and airfields. They just go straight up into the air. Now if we click on the weapon, you can see it's a Stingray lightweight torpedo. We're actually with the torpedo. What I'm going to do though is take the helicopter, order it over this way. I'm going to increase speed to cruise. The left mouse button didn't seem to work unless I clicked on this again, even though I had it originally highlighted. So you can see the submarine is actually turning away from our torpedo. What I'm going to do basically is to fire off let's change course up here and then come back down towards it. Because down here you can see that I've got oh, it says I've only got one left, which must mean, despite it looks like just one torpedo, the graphic is probably two torpedoes in there, which is another little oddity. Let's get the helicopter to turn. See, because I had it set up as normal, it's not going to make any difference if I fire the torpedo next, because it's only going to fire one. So it might be a good habit if you wanted to fire fewer weapons, because when you've got a submarine and you're firing tomahawks at a target, seeing 10 launching off at once because it's set to normal does make you feel a little silly. So let's try and get myself into a habit with that. So let's fire the next. What a, that is, that does not look nice. But then again, for all the criticisms that I might come up with, this is only £15. Oh, we've hit it, but not sunk it. That could mean that I have a torpedo here, which that could be, I don't suppose you can see it on the video, but that could be the submarine actually, giving off a lot of air bubbles. You can probably see it better now. So we might not need to use our aircraft. And there we go, the silly end victory. Okay, so that's it for tutorial 1 and 2. I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the next tutorial. Thank you very much.